We're here, and we made it. But we've got so much farther to go. Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noisera, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and this is show number 1622, season 16, episode 22. And I entitled this episode, High Profile Hits, Brain Dead Organ Sex, and Return of the Old Gods. Yeah, it's getting wild out there. We are clearly going to be talking about the assassination, the murder, the untimely death of Lindsey Graham, as well as some of the weird and strange statements coming out of like Benjamin Netanyahu. The man is a villain. I hope everybody can see this. Like, I hope everybody can see that this man is literally a villain. Just, you know, he's got Trump. It's crazy. It's crazy. We're going to be talking about DMT, aliens, James Franco, a secretive Silicon Valley startup that wants to grow brainless human organ sacs. We've talked about that in the past, but it's coming back up in the news. Also got more information about Section 230 of the NDAA, where it basically allows Israel to take control of America. And it just gets clearer every single week that they will eventually get rid of Donald Trump, that MAGA is a Trojan horse. We have let in some of the worst operatives, and we are occupied by foreign agents. We've got Todd Blanche testifying under oath, saying that releasing the Epstein files would be against the law. And so it is absolutely crazy when you think about the backdrop of what's going on, what this means, what it entails, and what it sets for our future. Like, it really is kind of crazy to think that not necessarily politics is like a show. It is, like, we all know the world is a stage, but there's just this weird feeling to it now, to where, not that it doesn't matter, because your actions do matter, but there's a completely different vibe to things these days. And I pray to God that it only gets better. I pray to God Almighty that it only gets better. At the start of the show, we're to be having a clip of physicist Thomas Campbell explaining that he thinks we believe in a simulation. We're also going to have a young man talking about how he believes that the timelines have begun to merge. And it is just getting wilder and wilder. So when you look at politics, it's wild. When you look at the paranormal, it's wild. When you look at the esoteric, it's wild. When you look at just the cosmology, the astrology, the time we're in, everything is going to get progressively weirder and strange. And we've got to talk about it. We've got to we've got to define it. We've got to give it terminology. We've got to, you know, internalize and externalize a lot of this stuff. It's getting wild, man. And there's nothing else I can really say for you guys other than that. You know, as an explanation of just last week, I'll be 1,000% honest with you. I had been fighting with Xfinity for almost 2 days. And then whenever it came to record on the day, I just said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it because I got frustrated. I would have had to do it on hotspot, bro. I would have had to do the show on hotspot. It was just dreadful. You know, I was just like, you know what, let's just call it quits. And I should have told you guys, but, you know, I just took the week off, went and did normal human things. And the internet only came back on, I think, Monday, like this past Monday. Like, we were without internet this past weekend. I had to do all of my coding on hotspot, but thankfully that doesn't consume, I'm not streaming whenever I'm coding. And so I got frustrated, took the week off, and was just like, this is mind numbing. But you can see during the time period that we didn't do the show, the creative bug consumed me, and I just started pumping out more and more content, more and more videos, more and more things for you guys to go and watch. Things for you guys to go take a look at. Let me go ahead and pull up the links over here, because we have just been super busy over here on our TikTok, on our Substack. We've been slacking on Instagram. I won't even lie to you guys, but we have just been pumping out mad amounts of content over there on TikTok. talking about demons, parasites, old world fountains of youth, primordialism, and what I call the nothingness, going into depth about, my superpower series, right? As humanity awakens. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you guys so you guys can see it. This is another reason why you guys need to subscribe to the Substack. If you haven't noticed, there is a completely different feel and tone to how we are doing things this time around. We are not, and I don't want to say like it's this time around. I think it's just like this season. You hear me say it all the time. We're changing configurations. Support us in this configuration. This is me talking about these configurations and the things we're trying to do. We need your guys' support. Get up over here on Substack and support us. Let me just tell you some of the things that we did in the absence of not doing last week's podcast episode. Like I said, we put out this video, Demons, Parasites, and Old World Fountains of Youth. We coupled it with a video showing some of the over 800 videos, 800 documented fountains across like the world, handmade by artisans and guilds. It's a really good video. I would highly recommend you guys go check it out. If we do more dives on that, we'll expand on it. Demons, Parasites, and Old World Fountains of Youth, primordialism and the nothingness. As humanity reawakens, people are going to discover their superpowers. Part 1, the interdimensional phenomenon. Quote, the visitors are not excarnate beings. I also put out UTEP Volume 9, Unfinished Thoughts, Volume 9, The Fourth Dimension, Hacking the Psychoid Layer, and Psychic Kids. Like we're pumping out lots of stuff because we have lots to say outside of just the show, outside of just your guys' weekly podcast. If you guys want to see more of what we're doing, go over there to Substack. What's the link? Let's get it up here so we can get it right. I still need to embed it in my brain. Substack.com/freedoms faction. Substack.com/freedoms faction. That's the best way to support us because we're going to be doing more over there. And this is a good way for me to segue into patreon.com, saying if you guys want to support this operation, go to patreon.com/NLIZCE. We're going to be syncing up both of those platforms. I think Patreon has an API and Substack has an API, and we'll just sync those up together so they get the mirror of one another. But we're changing up, dude. I don't think we're going to be having 4 to 5 hours to 6 hour long shows here in the near future. I think with the transformation of the content and the way that we're distributing things, it's going to be a lot different. And so this is me just telling you guys, not support us while you can, continue to support us. See what we're doing, understand the work, understand the history, understand the pedigree. You will not find this type of stuff anywhere else. I'll tell you that. Patreon.com/noise. That's the best way to support us in this current configuration. Let me go ahead and use this time to just start jumping into the updates in the intro, and we'll proceed from there. Blog Talk Radio discontinued our services last January. Thankfully, we were able to find a replacement over at Spreaker. This is another reason why I want to point you guys in the direction of our Substack account, because it has over 500 plus episodes that you guys can download, which I think is super cool. We were able to sync up all of our podcast episodes. And so Substack gets its own podcast feed the same way Patreon does. But the cool part about the Substack podcast feed is whenever we upload the video versions, like the compilations or the TikTok videos or some of those type of videos that we do, it takes the audio version of that video clip and then it puts it onto the podcast feed. So Substack has its own podcast feed where you guys get the audio of some of the videos that we do, which I think is super cool. And again, we've got over 500 plus episodes, and now we're adding additional content. Again, we were able to recover our YouTube channels from 2014, our Noise Era channel, as well as our backup channel. We've been putting some of the content too over there on our Odyssey channel that has content going back all the way to 2018. And what's wild is I think that the best thing for me to do moving forward, the same way I've created this new Substack, I think I have to create a new YouTube because previous years ago, that channels, both of them have had violations and strikes. It's not worth it trying to beat a dead horse. We're better off just starting fresh and new. So that's what we're going to do. You can find the links for that. We'll talk more about that later on, either this week or next week. You can find the updates of what we're doing inside of our Discord. We've got 2 Telegrams. Like I said, we've been kind of slacking this week on posting on Instagram. We've been primarily posting on TikTok and Substack. We'll be putting out articles there as well, which I genuinely look forward to. You can support us through Rumble and YouTube memberships, Coffee, PayPal, Patreon as well, Cash App. All that goodness is in the description bar below. As I said, we need to start pumping out the Substack articles so we can mirror those over there on X as well and start reaching that audience. The reason why you guys hear me talking about these different platforms and these different configurations is because this is just where we have to go. We cannot stay like, and for the longest time, bro, like I had this like loyalist mindset to Instagram and this loyalist mindset to like the followers. And I'm telling you, it was not reciprocated. I was not necessarily wasting my time, but I was doing my own thing. And that's not something that people care about. There are new audiences. There are new people that don't even know about what we've been doing for 16 plus seasons. That's who we need to appeal to. And that's what we're going to do. And this is why I'm telling you guys, support us before we just start going off into the internet and creating layers in between us. I need your guys' support. I always have. I always will. Patreon.com/noise. That's the best way to support us. Substack.com/freedoms faction is another way. Like I said, we're going to be writing X articles over there. We need more for an additional show. I'll tell you that. Like, I want to do more, man, but I need your guys' support. That's just what it boils down to. And that's why you guys see me appealing to a different audience instead of trying to just, scream over here to Instagram audience and say, hey, I'm back, but please help. Man, fuck all that. There's a whole new audience of people out there that don't even know what we're doing that we need to appeal to. We need to stop beating a dead horse and go do something new. With that being said, let me go ahead and just do a quick shill for New Leaf Naturals. Tell you guys you can get 10 to 30% off using promo code FOF25. Save yourself, too, with storable goods from My Patriot Supply. I highly recommend them. Notice we're not talking about shortages. We're not talking about food riots. We're not talking about scarcity and things like that. This is the time when you should actually get it, when you think things are good. Remember, during the beginning stages of this whole Iran situation, we were talking about, supply chain issues. People were like, oh my God, prices, this, that, and the third. This is a time for you to get storable goods. Get it at today's taste, with today's rates, at today's pace. You don't want to get it during a hyperinflated time period. You want to get it whenever everything is good, or at least seemingly good. And that's one of these time periods right now. With that being said, let's go ahead and start switching up into the intro of the show. Let's play this video clip of a reporter somewhere in California. I don't even know what she's reporting on, but the clip just talks about how she has a cockroach on her and she doesn't even move. That's commitment. Let's watch.
And it's a lot more comfortable at this hour, but we're still in the 80s here in the valley. So overnight temperatures not necessarily dropping. And this leads to less recovery time from the daytime heat. And
okay,
wow, I have to hand it to her. She was really calm.
I don't know if she knew that was there at that point.
Do those fly?
Yeah, they do fly. That's like a flying cockroach.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that's our Rachel Meditov,
flying cockroach.
who is so professional. She kept her cool. There's no way I would have been able to keep my cool on this.
No way.
She probably wasn't sure what it was. You just know there's something.
Something large.
No.
At the end, I have to say I'm so relieved that it jumped onto the mic because it looked like it was going to crawl like
into her shirt or in her hair.
And I was like, oh,
in her
God.
mouth.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
No.
And that's one of those things that several hours later, you're still feeling it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You still feel like it's on your body.
Yeah.
Maybe even several days later.
Oh,
Now we're all going to have nightmares about flying cockroaches.
It's humidity.
It is the humidity. Yes.
It is.
There's all kinds of insects.
I only take credit when the weather is good and you like it. None of the weather like this.
They're like slightly bigger in Belize than that. But
really?
that's, it's very common to see them like that because it's very humid there too.
Slightly bigger?
Slightly bigger.
We did not have this.
No, we've had this.
Not at this level.
You think like growing up, I feel like I agree.
Oh, that's right, because we're all from Southern California.
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah, this feels like a new phenomenon.
I agree. I don't remember.
Thank you. You're saying yes?
I
remember stuff like this.
Do you remember the ankle biter? I was going to say
Chiggers?
termites, the mosquitoes. I feel like we didn't have those either. That's like a new
that
phenomenon.
Jesus.
Though, that I don't think we have.
My God, I'm sorry you guys had to listen to that, but that's what people consider news these days. This is considered news. People sit here and they just eat this crap up. bit of a doom break, considering the kind of stuff that we're getting into in this segment. I mean, this is the kind of goy slop that they're putting out there for your parents and for your grandparents to watch. Like, ew, look at this cockroach. No, we're not going to talk about global instability. No, we're not going to be talking about socioeconomic changes. No, we're not going to be talking about all of the globalist things that are taking place. Just look at this cockroach. Ew, isn't it gross? Do you remember cockroaches? Oh my goodness. Wow, ew, I remember that tomorrow. This is the type of brain dead nonsense they force feed down into people. And then they wonder why we have like an autism issue or just like, you know, an IQ issue or you name it. My God, here's Jamie Dimon saying that we need thousands of skilled workers to build more, well, ships.
Where we build ships. They built ships here that won the Revolutionary War, that helped win World War II. And so now you have this, the arsenal of democracy has been reignited, and shipbuilding, people said couldn't happen. But here you have Hanwha Shipbuilding at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, which is going to be building components for nuclear submarines and major ships. We're just aiding here by doing some financing, you know, special kind of financing for Hanwha here. But very importantly, and this people have to remember, this is like one big complex ecosystem. We're also financing, you know, people. We need 300,000 electricians, welders, et cetera, to build ships in the next 5 or 10 years. So we're helping finance people who train people, who will train people here. There's 16,000 workers here. That number may very well double over the next 5 years as it builds more ships, and we build a lot of shipbuilding back to the United States. There's also a whole ecosystem here. I'm going to meet with Rose Industry later. You know, there are probably 100 vendors who help supply all the things that take place here. So we're doing our part to help, you know, protect the future of freedom and the future of America.
Yeah, I've thought about getting into electrician work. I'm not even going to lie to you, as like a skill or a trade or something, as I see all these things taking place. But it's wild, you know, it's like, look at the goy slop that they're feeding your parents and your grandparents. And at the same time, you can kind of see them getting ready militaristically and militarily. You know, like we're going to war with Iran. I don't think that's going to slow down. We still have lots of different enemies. And it's just, wow. I mean, keep this in mind for what we talk about later on in the show, particularly in the next segment where we talk about Trump rolling out a $1.5 trillion budget for war, for the Department of War next year. And I mean, you just have to read the tea leaves, man. You know, like in this particular segment, we're basically just zip lining through all this stuff to talk about how they're rolling out the robots. They're creating a, quote, useless class of humans. Again, we're halfway through the year of 2026. Noah Yuval Harari said at the start of the year, this was the plan. This is what they're doing. They're feeding you videos of goy slop nonsense on the TV, and they're just getting the robots ready. They're getting robots ready. They're getting prepared militarily. They're going to drag you to war, use the robots to curtail and surveil the populations that don't go to war to make them much more compliant. It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's basically like what we're going to talk about in this section. Don't worry. It's all a simulation, right? Well, anyway, AI is going to create a new underclass. With that being said, here's Elon Musk is claiming that Optimus and AI will enable excellent healthcare. This comes from End Times headline. They put this up July 9th. It says that according to a report from Yahoo Finance, Tesla CEO Elon Musk has highlighted the potential for the company's Optimus humanoid robot and advanced artificial intelligence systems to deliver superior medical care accessible to everyone, surpassing even the standards available to the wealthiest individuals today. Musk shared his outlook on Monday by quoting a post on X from influencer Peter Diamandis, who circulated a clip featuring Musk discussing the capabilities of highly dexterous humanoid robots. This vision underscores a future where advanced robotics could fundamentally reshape the healthcare delivery on a global scale. It says, quote, AI plus Optimus will enable universal excellent healthcare that is better than anyone receives today. Pause right there. I think we have everything we need, because what's happening is they're setting the new standards. They're rolling out robots. They're dehumanizing humanity. They're making us more decadent. They're making us degenerate. And they're saying, oh, don't worry, the robots will take over. It's like, I remember when during the pandemic we were reporting on things, and it was I forget what the word called, but it was like a skill deficit. Like all these people were leaving these high skilled positions of power because they didn't want to take the shot. And so there was like an intellectual deficit, and they had to put in all these people with DEI that were not necessarily qualified for these high skilled positions, but they just got the job anyway because they took the job and they were compliant. And then they still messed stuff up, and they had to roll down some of those positions. And then look at where we are now, to where they're using AI to extract the remaining knowledge of people and then put robots in place of those individuals, those highly dexterous robots, those NPCs, in place of positions that are otherwise redundant. Like it's just crazy to see it all take place so quickly, right? And to hear somebody like Elon Musk, like, to me, this is almost a dystopian statement, if you want my opinion. It's like I could just picture Elon Musk saying that Optimus AI robot will enable excellent healthcare, and like an evil villain. This is a very, very dystopian statement because we're removing human healthcare. They're standardizing healthcare. They're standardizing everything by rolling out the AI, rolling out the robots. But hey, don't worry, it's all a simulation, right? Well, speaking of simulations and robots, data centers expected to drive a $6.3 billion in added electricity costs across 13 states. A power auction conducted by PGM Interconnection, the nation's largest electrical grid operator, is expected to add $6.3 billion in additional charges to the electricity bill of millions of households and businesses across 13 eastern states and the District of Columbia within the next 3 years. The sharp increase stems from surging electricity demands tied to, you guessed it, data centers. And so they're putting you out of a job. They're letting you watch attractive news reporters get run over by cockroaches. They're saying that they need more skilled individuals to build the ships because we're going to war the next couple years. Like it's crazy. And the skilled workers are what's going to come next for the robots. And so it's just wild to see society get upgraded, to see them push forward this agenda, to see all of these just levers and gears of society kind of tick forward. And these data centers, this is how you know it's going to be like a quantum leap in the problems that we're dealing with. Like, remember a couple of years ago when we used to freak out about 5G? Now it's 6G and flock cameras and emotional surveillance and Palantir. It's like, when these things get operational, what do you think is going to happen? The surveillance is going to be next level, but the threat that we're dealing with, the fusion of AI and humanoid robotics, is going to be next level. That's going to create that high-tech, neo-feudalistic, dystopian society, because there will be no jobs. The data centers, the AI, and the robots will have put people out of business. We'll have to roll out the social credit score systems. Governments will have to figure out some type of way to keep a disillusioned and unemployed population engaged with the system. And so, of course, they're going to have to print endless, useless money for a system that they've already built or beat, so to speak. Look at this, like this leads in perfect to this right here. Check this out. Best-selling historian predicts that AI will create a useless class of human. Let's see, they're talking about Noah Yuval Harari. This comes from End Times headline. They put this up July 11th. It says that renowned historian Yuval Noah Harari has issued a stark warning about the profound societal risks posed by artificial intelligence. In his forthcoming book, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, the author of the international bestseller Sapiens argues that smarter AI systems could render vast numbers of people economically and politically irrelevant, creating what he calls a, quote, useless class. I think what's crazy is we actually have a clip of this somewhere on the internets, on the YouTubes. Let's see if we can find that right quick. Oh my gosh, Tony Robbins talking about robots. Noah Yuval Harari, useless humans. He said this earlier this year. And what you have to understand is that's what these people are doing. They're setting the stage for what's coming next. Trying to find the clip. I don't think this is a recent one. There are so many dystopian moments this man has said things. Let's just go ahead and pull up a quick clip, of this satanic rat.
Of useless people. As computers become better and better in more and more fields, there is a distinct possibility that computers will outperform us in most tasks and will make humans redundant. And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games. We see the creation of a new massive class of useless people.
And you see how they all laugh like seals, like trained dolphins. They laugh and they clap.
Finance is the ideal playing ground for AI. It's purely an informational realm. If you want to have an AI self-driving vehicle on the road, which has been promised again and again, and we are still not there, the problem...
Waymo.
Yeah, but you go around London, you don't see these tens of thousands of self-driving vehicles yet. I just passed my first driving lesson.
Congratulations.
Here in the UK, and you still need to learn how to drive.
Okay.
So,
but
the problem is that for driving, you need to deal with the messy physical world of pedestrians and holes in the roads and whatever. But in finance, it's only information in, information out. It's much easier for an AI to master that. And what happens to finance once AIs, for instance, start inventing new financial devices that the human brain is simply incapable of dealing with because it's mathematically too complex? We are going to see AI changing even things like religion.
How?
At least religions which are based on texts, like Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, they give ultimate authority to the text, not to any human being. Now, until today, humans were nevertheless the main authority in these religions because the texts could not speak. The Bible could not interpret itself. The Bible could not answer your questions, so you needed a human being as an intermediary. What happens when you have an AI text that can speak for itself? No Jewish rabbi can know all the texts of Judaism because there are too many of them. For the first time in history, there is something on the planet that is able to remember every single word in every writing of every rabbi in the last 2,000 years and talk back to you and explain and defend its views. So I have friends who are now working on building religious AIs that are meant to either augment or replace human religious leaders, especially in text-based religions. If the religion is not based on texts, it doesn't give authority to a text, it's a different story.
You see, this is why you always hear me going on and on about the satanic scientists, the Luciferian engineers, the occult technicians.
Or in the United States with Roosevelt, or if you're in Germany with Hitler, or if you're in the USSR with Stalin, and you think about building the future, then your building materials are those millions of people who are working hard in the factories, in the farms, the soldiers you need them. You don't have any kind of future without them. And now fast forward to the early 21st century when we just don't need the vast majority of the population. on level of the human mind is that a lot of people sense that they are being left behind and left out of the story, even if their material conditions are still relatively good. In the 20th century, what was common to all the stories, the liberal, the fascist, the communist, is that the big heroes of the story were the common people. Not necessarily all people, but if you lived, say, I don't know, in the Soviet Union in the 1930s, life was very grim. But when you looked at the propaganda posters on the walls that depicted the glorious future, you were there. You looked at the posters which showed steelworkers and farmers in heroic poses. And it was obvious that this is the future. Now, when people look at the posters on the walls or listen to TED Talks, they hear a lot of, these big ideas and big words about machine learning and genetic engineering and blockchain and globalization, and they are not there. They are no longer part of the story of the future. And I think that again, this is an hypothesis. If I try to understand and to connect to the deep resentment of people in many places around the world, part of what might be going there is people realize, and they are correct in thinking that the future doesn't need me. You have all these smart people in California and
and that's where we cut them off right there. The future does need you. But these are the words of these techno priests. You see, I'm going to start using that more. That's more appropriate. These techno priests. You hear me talk about the satanic scientists, the Luciferian engineers, the occult technicians. Well, now we've got the techno priests like Yuval Noah Harari saying that the future does not need you, that you're useless. See, this is more of that anti-human, transhumanist propaganda that's meant to dehumanize you, to destroy you from within, to make you give up. This is why we have always advocated for, and will continue to push for, a pro-human, Renaissance-based, divinity-inspired future. It's the only way. It's the only way that we can combat what these people want for us and what they're trying to do to us. Now, we have to use the technology, as it has always been, as a tool for liberation. Not a tool of enslavement, for a tool of creativity, expression, not containment, enslavement, and dehumanization. But it's important that we hear what these people think, because these are the ideologies going in there. These are the ideologies going into the tech, going into what they believe. You see. But don't worry, it's all a simulation, right? We're seeing AI create this new underclass. Let's proceed forward. Chinese billionaire fathers 100 US born anchor babies, and now they're being raised in communist China. A Chinese billionaire has ignited alarm after posting a photo showing more than 100 of his children, babies born through US surrogacy arrangements, and now being raised in communist China. This is by Baxter Dimitri from the People's Voice. They put this up July 9th. It says the image, reportedly shared by tech mogul Zubu on Chinese social media, has fueled concerns over an extraordinary loophole in America's citizenship laws. Every child born on U.S. soil is automatically an American citizen, regardless of where they are ultimately raised. It says if Zubu's claims are true, every one of his 100 children is an American citizen. And that means that they could one day vote in U.S. elections, hold security clearances, serve in government, or even run for the highest office in the land. And we've seen that already just this year, where I think she was like a California mayor. She got caught and exposed being a Communist Party spy, I think. It says the wealthy founder of the online gaming company Duoyi reportedly calls himself, quote, China's first father, and plans to intermarry his offspring with Elon Musk's family. The implications have sent shockwaves through political circles and fueled fears that a loophole in the American system could be transformed into a powerful geopolitical weapon. It absolutely is. It says that China commentator Jennifer Zhang says she initially believed the image was fake, saying, quote, "Look at this terrifying photo. At first, I thought it was AI generated." But according to Zhang, the image originated from the official Weibo account of Zubo's company, Douyi Network. And it says that the billionaire's former partner has reportedly claimed that he fathered hundreds of children. Zhu himself has acknowledged having more than 100. The revelation has prompted an unsettling question. Why would one foreign billionaire want so many American-born children? Is it merely an eccentric billionaire's obsession with legacy, or could there be something much darker at play? Oh, wait a second. This isn't working. That video clip is not playing. That isn't playing. Let's go ahead and get that back up. And try this again. Maybe we'll go ahead and play it over here on YouTube, on Instagram.
Over 100 American-born children, all through U.S. surrogates. And it is totally legal. Chinese elites and billionaires are increasingly using U.S. surrogacy laws to have large numbers of American-born children that are automatically citizens. But the practice is starting to receive more scrutiny. I'm Laura Taglianetti with Mo News. Surrogacy is illegal in China, but legal in much of the United States, and often protected via sealed court records. Surrogacy agencies don't communicate with each other, making it easy for wealthy clients to commission pregnancies across multiple firms without anyone knowing. According to the Wall Street Journal, one of the most extreme cases involves Chinese video game executive Xu Bo, who reportedly fathered more than 100 children through U.S. surrogates. Court records show that some of these children were cared for by nannies in California while the paperwork was being processed. In a 2023 hearing, Xu acknowledged that he'd never met several of them. Xu also told a judge that he wanted 20 or more US-born boys, calling boys superior to girls and saying that they would eventually take over his business. A judge later denied him parental rights to multiple unborn children, leaving those babies in legal limbo. Researchers at Emory University found that international use of US surrogacy quadrupled between 2014 and 2019, with nearly 40% of foreign parents coming from China. Costs can reach $200,000 per child. We heard from fertility doctors in the Mo News community who tell us that not all clinics are the same, and that some have much more stringent rules vetting prospective parents. The doctors also raised ethical concerns that some other clinics, which may not be accredited, are enabling exploitation, with wealthy clients taking advantage of financially vulnerable women to carry their babies. As for what's next, President Trump has issued an executive order seeking to limit birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court will be taking up the issue in the coming months. As of now, all babies born on U.S. soil are citizens under the 14th Amendment, even if parents are not permanent residents or citizens. At the same time, U.S. lawmakers are exploring restrictions on foreign surrogacy itself, citing concerns about national security, legal accountability, and human trafficking. One Chinese billionaire has over 100 American...
And yeah, so this is why people are against birthright citizenship, because we literally have, foreign billionaires coming over here, having over 100 plus kids, and like the article went over, exploiting the American political system. These people could become operatives very easily. If you thought the issue we had with Israel was bad and people with dual citizenship, what do you think about literal Chinese operatives? This is why we were against immigration. This is why we're like, we've got to figure this whole thing out. This is why this is a ticking time bomb, right? But don't worry, it's all a simulation. You should have no problem thinking about the next generation and how many rugrats are going to be running around from foreign-born individuals that are going to be considered American citizens, and all the benefits that you have rightfully, not taken or rightfully rejected because you don't want to be a hindrance on the system or a hindrance on the government. There are going to be people, and we played clips on this show this season and last season, people who say the exact opposite, who are more than happy to come up over here, get up on welfare, force you to work, and live off the tax-paying dollars. And that is an economic weapon. And so you have 100 Chinese children in the very near future that could become political bombs and weapons, economic weapons in the near future, changing the landscape, the political and the socioeconomic landscape of the future. So while we're sitting here saying, oh, universal basic income will never happen, or, oh, these things are never going to take place, and that's because of the time frame we're in, the timeline we're working on, and the things that we grew up with. There is a whole new crop of Americans being born. They're going to have a world view that is not familiar to our own. They're going to say no borders, no walls, no USA at all. They're going to condemn this isolationist, nationalist mindset, and they're going to promote all of these different type of things. This is why you keep seeing me talk about the globalist model that is being installed. But in our time frame, we're still dealing with stuff like this. ICE arresting 5 illegal aliens convicted of, quote, repulsive crimes. This is by Tyler O'Neill of the Daily Signal. It got picked up over there at the Liberty Daily, July 15th. It says that ICE arrested 5 illegal aliens convicted for, quote, repulsive crimes Tuesday. The agency announced Wednesday, quote, yesterday, ICE arrested more monsters from our communities, including 3 murderers, pedophiles, and drug traffickers. Acting Assistant Secretary Lauren Biss told the Daily Signal in a statement Wednesday, quote, ICE is not backing down and will continue to remove criminals from our communities. Biss cited a Harvard University Harris poll from last month, finding that 80% of U.S. voters said that they support, quote, deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have committed crimes. She said that this demonstrates broad support for the, quote, Trump administration's common sense efforts to deport criminal illegal aliens from our country. ICE provided the Daily Signal with the names and mugshots for 5 illegal aliens, quote, convicted for repulsive crimes, including first-degree murder, sexual exploitation of a minor, lewd and lascivious acts with a minor under 16 years old, cruelty towards a child, and manufacturing or distribution of a controlled, dangerous substance. And here are some of the pictures. You've got Omar Israel Hernandez, going back to Mexico. You got Guillermo Bernabal, Pablo Gutierrez, he's going back to Guatemala. Ray Alfredo Ornelas version, he's going back to Mexico too. Claudio Yasal Bayamps Rosario, he's going back to the Dominican Republic. Get yourself up out of here, bro. Omar Gutierrez Espinal, he's going back to the Dominican Republic. He was trying to sell heroin. It says that Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen on Tuesday temporarily ordered ICE to cease conducting vehicle stops, causing some of President Donald Trump's supporters to worry that the administration was de-emphasizing deportations. Reporters R. Tom Homan told the Daily Signal Tuesday, however, that the pause would not slow down the rate of deportations. Quote, let me address that. I'm sick or tired of reading about how the administration has lost their guts with these mass deportations.
Will this change on vehicle stops lower the rate of deportation during the pause?
No. And, let me address that for me. I'm sick and tired of reading about how the administration has lost their guts with, mass deportations. And do you know, June last month, ICE arrested more aliens than any month in the history of the agency. So, people say ICE is not serious about this job. Last month, the most aliens arrested in the history of the agency, more than last year, more than when you had the FBI, ATF, DEA, Border Patrol, ICE all out there. ICE by themselves, with their 287G partners, had the most arrests in history of the agency. Now, were numbers down for a few months? Yeah. Why? Because the department was shut down, right? Agents weren't getting overtime paid. They weren't getting travel. I mean, the travel cards were maxed out, so they couldn't travel to operations. The targeting wasn't being funded like it should have been. So the department was shut down, so of course the numbers are shut down. And why did the Dems shut down the government? I'll tell you why, because I was in negotiation because of Minneapolis. They had concerns about things in Minneapolis. I'm not going to make a judgment call on everything happened in Minneapolis, but that's why they shut it down. Every question, everything they wanted ICE to change and Border Patrol to change, come back to operations in Minneapolis. So, bottom line is, once we got the funding, Numbers are going through the ceiling, like President Trump promised America.
Who made the call to?
Yeah, I'm just putting this clip in here and this information in here. I'm sure people are like, what does this have to do with the technocrats? Like, what's this got to do with the AI and the robots and the simulation? And it's like, it's got everything to do with it in its own way, shape, and form. You have to understand that we've deported millions of illegals that were brought into this country to cook the books. And as we roll out the robots, as we go through this whole socioeconomic reformation, then the installation of the technocracy, and they create this whole new system, they have to have a better base, right? They have to have a better base. They have to have like an enforcement arm. It's one big flywheel system that they have to keep entangled and interweave and working within one another. And so they're getting out all these illegals because, well, there goes all the labor, the human capital, right? What some of these people call low value human capital. That's why they have to roll out the robots to replace the low value human capital. They have to change the standards, set the standards, change the narrative, tell you how all this stuff works. The illegals, this sets up the whole narrative too. Like, look at this look at this Jewish dude over here. Tom Homan's over here just outside the White House at 4:56 p.m. and you just got some Jewish gentleman strolling, having a Starbucks. It's like on a random whatever day this is, you're just going to watch some Jewish gentleman come out of nowhere near the White House. Absolutely crazy. So I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm looking at this. I know what Tom Homan's doing. I support what ICE is doing by getting out some of the illegals. There was a whole big kerfuffle earlier this year about, oh my gosh, he's separating families and stuff like this. No, there are actual criminals. There are actual villains, rapists, pedophiles, murderers, traffickers. I don't support these individuals, believe it or not. As crazy as that might sound, I don't support criminals. I know that's a far-fetched thought for our Antifa or left-leaning audience, but I support the idea of getting these individuals out. And I know the argument is like, oh, ICE is using Palantir and stuff like this. It's like, look, bro, I don't want my kids playing around individuals that would snatch them up. There was an article about this earlier this week. I didn't throw this into the rotation. This is me freestyling. But there's some dude over here kidnapping young children at a park, thinking he can get away with it in broad daylight naked, because that's how deranged people are these days. He's not even an illegal alien, just a deranged white dude trying to snatch kids in the middle of the day. Thank God there were parents at the park that stopped this person. So the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to look to illegal aliens to find crime. But whenever this is a culture that they bring in and something that we've normalized and tolerated, trafficking, violence, murder. I mean, just the other week we played a video clip of what's going on over there in Seattle. It's like we're just normalizing this instability and coming up with more and more reasons to backslide, and we never say, hey, let's put it into this. Hey, let's stop this. So a lot of nuances here, but in this particular segment, we're not talking about the illegals. We're just talking about how this is the low value human capital that's being replaced with the robots. What Yuval Noah Harari calls this useless class of people that will be replaced with the humanoid robots that Elon Musk is developing. Let's proceed forward. Here's a quick video clip from Dom Lucre talking about the mall world related to the GATE program.
Accelerated learning, complex learning, advanced learning. You've been on our radar for a long time. You're finally ready.
Saw the video I did on the GATE program, you'll remember we explored its strange connections to psychic research, the gateway tapes used for consciousness expansion, Zener cards for ESP testing, the mysterious pink drink some students remember being given, and the possibility that GATE wasn't just about finding gifted students, but about studying, identifying, and training children with unique or even psychic potential for future government projects. But that's not where the story ends. Because when former GATE students found each other online as adults, they realized something strange. They weren't just connected by their childhood experiences. They shared remarkably similar traits, struggles, and abilities in adulthood. And most bizarrely, many of them shared the exact same recurring dream. They call it Mall World, a liminal space that feels strange yet familiar. And even though these people have never met in real life, they all describe having eerily similar dreams about this place. But before we get into that, let's talk about some of the other traits they share. First, there's the pattern recognition. Gate kids as adults report an almost compulsive ability to see patterns everywhere. In data, in social situations, in random events, they make connections others miss, sometimes to the point of paranoia. They overthink everything, analyzing situations from every possible angle, unable to turn off the analytical part of their brain. Sleep problems are nearly universal. Insomnia, delayed sleep phase syndrome, vivid dreams, difficulty maintaining normal sleep schedules. Many report being natural night owls, feeling more alert and creative in the late evening and early morning hours. Some wonder if the consciousness exercises from childhood permanently altered their sleep architecture. There's also a pervasive sense of not fitting in. Many gay adults report feeling like outsiders their entire lives, struggling with social anxiety, feeling like they're observing human behavior from the outside rather than naturally participating in it. They often describe feeling like they're playing a role in social situations rather than being authentic. Many also report strong creative abilities. They excel at abstract thinking, creative problem solving, and artistic pursuits, coming up with unconventional solutions. Many work in creative fields, technology, or research positions that require innovative thinking. And then there's the dreams, the one experience that stands out as too specific and too consistent to be coincidence.
Oh man, it was so crazy. Everything she was saying, I just wanted to interject and say, I think
You're starting to
just as a quick background, I probably I was in the introductory stages of the GATE program. I don't think I really talked about this at all because it's just content, really. I remember a couple of years ago whenever we went down that whole rabbit hole of looking into Project Growth Flame, Project Lane, Project Sunstreak, and Project Stargate, and psychoenergetic capabilities. And I think that was probably one of those crystallizing moments, because this is something that people began to freak out about later on in social media. It's after I had already been kicked off Instagram and they had just shadow banned me, this is a phenomenon that I saw people just eat up. And I was oh, you guys didn't read about those documents back in the day. But what's interesting now is because there's this mass awareness of all of this, as the narrator discussed, you're seeing a lot of these people post stuff on TikTok and with their shared experiences. And it's so crazy that they had mentioned that pink drink, because I thought it was just Pepto-Bismol, right? Because for me, whenever I was, again, just some backstory, I grew up in the South, moved to Los Alamos, New Mexico, where, you've got everything that goes with there. Dulce is right down the street. Roswell's right down the street. So I was just this random black kid from the South, brought up here to this super secretive military installation around all these rich white kids. And I remember being inducted in the third, fourth, and fifth grade. I remember just going to a little trailer over there, little room over there, little compartment. You're still in your school grounds. And they would just do these tests. What's this little picture right here? I remember these cards. I remember the psychic tests. I remember them trying to do telepathic tests with me, trying to get me to guess what they're holding up, guess what color it is, guess the shape. I remember that. I remember the visualization techniques. I remember these headphones. I remember being put under. I remember hearing the beeps, I remember parts of this. I'm not even going to lie to you. I think that's what I'm trying to say in a weird way. I remember some of this, and I remember because I was doing some strange stuff as a kid, and I just thought it was me being a black kid around all these white kids, but I think it was just me being a gate kid. I remember making things levitate. I remember being able to peer inside of people's brains. I am very empathic. And I think that's one of the reasons why you guys hear me get into this psycho, emotional, spiritual lane so much because that's naturally what makes sense to me. And that's why we do the podcast. That's why we talk to people. That's why we do all these different weird things. We talk about multidimensionality and how we have these super high concepts and we try to make them very simple because for me, it's very simple. And so I'm just listening to this lady talk, and I think I was part of the GATE program because I remember too, my mother, when she got older, you know, I remember talking with her and saying, "You remember the GATE program?" And she said, "Yeah." And it's so crazy that they mentioned this pink drink because that's probably like what it was. I remember her saying, like, "Hey, they wanted to put you in this program, but they wanted to give you drugs." Like I wasn't on ADHD or Ritalin or Zoloft or any of these type of things. I was not on drugs, but my mom said, "Hey, they wanted to put you in this advanced program, but they wanted to give you drugs, but I didn't want to give you drugs, so I didn't put you in it." And I thought, okay, well, thanks, Mom. Thanks for not getting me addicted to drugs. And so, you know, as I get older and I see this type of information come out, I don't want to say I'm trauma-based mind controlled, but I didn't have any visions of the mall world. I didn't have any experiences of going to this type of place, right? And I think that's another component of people that they were able to successfully get into the program, that they were able to put under, that they were able to carry out other advanced forms of this psychic testing on. I don't have memories of this. I've got memories of the cards. I've got memories of the headphones. I've got memories of random psychic experiences, right? I've got memories of the pink drink, the headphones, but I do not have memories of like what comes next. I'll be 1,000% honest with you. The mall world and these different places, I know. I did have, when I was younger, I did have like when I was like in sophomore year, I had this crazy out of body experience where I saw myself above the earth, right? And then my freshman year, I had this experience where I had locked myself in a cave, you know, and I had this weird transcendental experience, but I did not have any memories of the mall world. I think everybody can see to a large degree that I have the pattern recognition that comes with it. I think that's my autism, right? But I'm just listening to everything this 2-minute video said, and it is just on point. I think your host may have been part of the GATE program, and I'm looking at this, and it makes so much sense. And so as we begin to close out this segment, we've got 2 not necessarily long videos, but lengthy videos talking about some of the strange things that we've already discussed in just this little rant so far. The fact that we're living in a simulation, the timelines are merging, and that things are happening at an accelerated rate. Now, with everything I just said right there, me being in the GATE program, all the strange stuff I had growing up, moving from the South to Los Alamos and all that, I think, again, that's what's created the host, the show, the person I am. And I mean, good God, it's leaving me speechless. I'll put it to you that way. And I think that's why I have to move forward, because I'm having some weird recall thing going on. But moving forward with the show, let's go ahead and play this quick NASA physicist talking about how he can describe that we are indeed living in a simulation. And that, not that this isn't real, and I talked about this ironically enough on one of my videos on my TikTok, but like purgatory, or like a video game that's still rendering, it is a simulation, but we are projecting our reality. We are creating it. And we are also creating the aliens that come with it as well. And we're also living in we're living in the remnants of previous architects who have rendered the world. So again, I'm ranting, I'm raving. Let's go ahead and play this quick clip. This quick clip of Thomas Campbell, this NASA physicist, explaining that we live in a simulation, and then we will pick it up from there.
Speed that you can go contiguously, not teleporting around, but just going, is 1 delta x, 1 pixel of distance for 1 pixel of time. That's it. If you move every time you update with another pixel of time, then you can't move more than 1. If you move 2 in a pixel of time, you just teleported.
Right.
You've disappeared here and you've appeared over here. But for contiguous space, that means continuous motion, 1 pixel of distance for 1 pixel of time.
And are those pixels the Planck scale?
Yeah.
Planck?
So the pixel of distance is the Planck length, and the pixel of time is Planck time.
Mm-hmm.
And you divide the length by the time, and you get the speed of light.
Right.
So as fast as you can go through this reality is 1 pixel. The World of Warcraft has a speed limit.
Sure.
They've got a certain resolution, that is their delta T. You know, that's how you update a big model. You update it every delta T. You redraw where everything is.
So that's 60 hertz or 120 megahertz.
Yeah, or whatever. So you just update things.
Right.
That's what
refresh
makes,
rate.
Yeah, it's a refresh rate. So the refresh rate drives the action, delta T, and the fastest that you can move contiguously through any reality is 1 pixel of distance for 1 pixel of time. The Sims has a speed limit.
Yeah.
Every virtual reality has a speed limit.
Set of rules.
This is the way it is. If it's a virtual reality, it's pixelated. Time is pixelated. Distance is pixelated. It's a virtual reality. It's computed. It's computed on a grid, if you like, distance and time. And that means that every virtual reality has a speed limit. Our speed limit is delta T over delta X over delta T. And there you go.
How does entanglement work then? How does entanglement work then?
Well, entanglement is also a simple thing. You have one system, and that one system stays one system. It's not, in other words, the system may, like you have a particle, and the particle comes in and hits this kind of special plastic, and it stops, but 2 particles come out.
Yep.
Okay, now the 2 particles come out are entangled. And if you look at that, one comes out say, this way and one goes out that way. So if you take the momentum is a vector, if you take that vector and say, what's the component this way? And what's the component this way? Opposites. Well, they're exactly the same and they cancel out because this one didn't have any momentum in that direction, conservation momentum. And you take the component that was in the forward direction and it's exactly the same as the one that went in. So they're entangled by the conservation laws. What comes out has to conserve what went in. So if you have 2 particles going out, each one's at half the energy, as this one was, because they split that, you know. So anyway, that's the way it works. And then there's all kinds of things get entangled there, but it's all one system. So those 2 particles come out. Now they're actually part of one thing. They're just one thing that's now in a different configuration.
But the speed of light doesn't matter to those
No,
particles.
it doesn't matter. So they go off and now they're 1 million light years away.
Right.
If you change this one in a way that changes the momentum, let's say, like a spin up or a spin down, that's a momentum vector actually. Then the other one changes because the result has to be 0. Because it was 0 to start.
Sure, but how do they communicate?
They don't communicate. It's all one thing.
It's one thing.
It's one thing. Think of it this way. What if we had a big 2x4 and it was 1 million miles long and we were strong enough that we could just grab it and flip it upside down? Well, when we grab it and turn it over, the other end, 1 million miles away, would turn over just the same because it's all one thing.
Right.
You see, it's all one thing. It's not 2 separate things. We see those 2 separate things. It's just a configuration of that one thing. And that one thing had certain conservation rules associated with it. So when you do this, that happens because they're all one system. They're not, we look at it and say there's 2 different particles traveling. They're each independent.
Yes.
They're not independent. They're connected by the rules of conservation and
right.
You know, it connects.
Okay, I think I've got what I need to kind of riff from there. I actually find that really fascinating, but I didn't want to let that go on more than it needed to. Just to kind of riff on it right there, I'm just drawing a classic Y formation. Just drawing a classic Y, right? 2 little lines going off in the center at the bottom. That's what entanglement is. The first line over there on the left-hand side, that's A and B. They meet right there. They converge at that little junction point. And then that bottom stalk is both A and B. But whenever they splinter off in different directions, A is in its own dimension, B is in its own dimension, but they exist simultaneously in a completely different entangled dimension as the same thing as both A and B. So very, very fascinating, but I definitely think that that could be explained much differently. I don't think you did a good job explaining that we do live in a simulation. What's wild is this is something we've been discussing primarily on the show these past couple of weeks, especially when looking at the UFO and the alien phenomenon, the interdimensionals, extra-dimensional information. We did a video on our feeds. You guys can go find it. It's on our Substack. It's on our Patreon. It's everywhere. But we talk about the 4th dimension, shadows of the fourth dimension and how things are beginning to bleed through. And this is just, if anything, a nod to what was going on with CERN. Yeah, that's the fourth dimension, the volume 9, the fourth dimension, hacking the psychoid layer and psychic kids. If anything, this ties into the GATE program and everything else that we've discussed here so far. I think one of the reasons why ultimately we talk about these scientific and spiritual and, if anything, technical concepts and try to merge them into like a worldview. Maybe that is the GATE program in me. Maybe that is me saying that we are beginning to adopt a technocratic mindset towards reality, but they're all entangled. They're all one and the same. They are all one and the same. Again, this is just the intro on the honorable mentions. We're just trying to set a background for the show of everything else that's going on. We have more crazy things to get into. Here is the final video for this segment before we hit a hard break. It's of a young man describing timelines merging, the split that we all feel, and some of the other strange things that are going on. The full clip's like 8 minutes long. We won't play it in its entirety. We're just going to get the good bits of it, and then we're going to go ahead and hit hard break after that. But like I said, don't worry. It's all a simulation, right? AI will create a new underclass.
Do you see how they work? How do they interact? Where are they?
Okay, I'm going to show you because it's easier to describe it. Okay, so okay, here's the split. Okay, each one of these Earths is a different timeline. Okay, here is reaching into the negativity, and here is into the positivity. Okay, and they are all running concurrently, simultaneously with one another. And as we are moving closer towards the split, these timelines are converging into one. Okay, so this is going like this, and then like this, and then like this, and then like this, until eventually we get to the point of the split. Now here is the important part. On each of these positive timelines, you get an accumulation of karma. The same for the negativity. As they converge, you are going to get things happen. This is the Mandela effect. So the Mandela effect that you see are the convergences of all the different timelines. They're similar enough in all these other timelines, but different. So as the realities merge together, you will notice differences. This is what deja vu is. Deja vu is your memory within another timeline, like it's already happened. It's where something's just converged. Those deja vu moments is you converging with another timeline.
Because it's already happened, but in a different timeline.
Correct, and it's similar enough for you to go, I feel like this has happened before. So each time you sense deja vu, it's a conversion of the two Earths.
They're merging together.
They're merging together. And as we're getting closer to the spearhead of the split, you're going to have less versions of Earth because we're getting closer to the point. So there comes to a point where there is just two Earths. You have one positive and one version of negative. If you have reduced your negativity and you are positive, this is the evolution of humanity. Everyone who exists within this timeline transcends to the next. Everyone that exists on this timeline will reduce down to the more dense reality. This is the split, and then the process will begin again. This will then split into both positivity and negativity. And each time it grows and expands.
So it just happens again and again and again.
And the same on the negative cycle. The negative cycle in the more dense realm will be happening simultaneously as the other. This is the multiverse as you know it. And it gets to a point, an epoch of time will pass. And the same thing replicates through each layer.
But do we still exist in both?
No. If you have shifted from here to here, you will not ever want to return back.
But what about our friends and family who might not shift with us?
The ones that are not going to shift will simply cease to exist within the timeline.
They'll just disappear.
It will look like disappearances, yes. So think of it like this. At the minute, the majority of humanity is actually on the positive timeline, okay? So let's go back to the original timeline. Here's the split. So if you have just two versions of Earth, positive and negative, let's say that 90% of humanity is positive and only 10% is doomed to fall to the next realm. When this happens, can you imagine what it's going to be like for those left on the planet where 90% of the population just cease to exist? You're going to be causing mass panic and chaos, which will further spiral within the negativity. So as the split happens and a mass disappearance happens, this will cause huge panic for the people left behind. The apocalypse, as is prophesied.
Is this the false flag alien invasion?
Here, as you
Is it the
elevate,
harpazo?
you will become aware of the splits because you are aligned with it, and you will know that the ones that are no longer here are the ones
And
that
we
dropped.
will remember them and miss them.
And we will remember them and miss them, correct. And what our purpose is, as we evolve to the next epoch of time, is to send helpers at the crucial pivotal moments in humanity's evolution to assist those stuck to transcend on the next. That's it.
So, and what about, because there have been cases people have seen about sort of overlapping of timelines, not just with deja vu, but seeing things or seeing people.
Yeah.
Is that the same?
Yeah, that's all the same. The overlapping of the timelines is the convergence. So it's an expansion and then a contraction. We're currently in the final stages of the contraction.
And what about when people sort of, so some people that have like worked in bars or pubs and then they've sort of, it's like, maybe not time, but been transported back in time to like Victorian type ages for a split second and seen like people dressed up as, what do you think of that?
So you have to remember, linear time doesn't exist. It only exists when you're in this version of reality. This construct of reality is, it appears as linear time. When you sit above it, in this lower dense realm, time has to move in one direction. And that's all you can do. You're born and then you die. And that's it. And then you're born and you die. Now, your soul, when it comes up to this level, it can go back to any point in time. But once it's in that simulation, the game, if you like, you've got to play it through to the end. So you can incarnate at any point, but you've got to see that lifetime through.
So we could, if we got to the right level, we could...
When we elevate and we're sitting up here, once the split happens, we can view the timeline in any direction we want. Linear time, it just is for us. Time is not a construct that has to go from front to back. It doesn't exist. So we can see this timeline at any location. Not only just this timeline, but each version of Earth and each linear path at each point we can see from up here.
This is why I'm going to recommend that you guys go to our page and you go watch the Unfinished Thoughts Volume 9, The Fourth Dimension, Hacking the Psychoid Layer, and Psychic Kids. While you're there, take some time and go watch the Interdimensional Phenomenon. Know that the visitors are not excarnate beings. Everything my friend is saying is absolutely true, and you've got to wonder, where is he getting this information? There's no Wikipedia. There's no book that describes this. He's receiving the downloads, as many other people have and are continuing to. They're talking about the new earth. They're talking about the 5D. They're talking about ascension, elevation, transcendence, what the Bible calls the harpazo, the great catching away. He's not talking about the split. He's talking about the merge. We're going to be talking about these things and more, not necessarily in this episode, but in future editions later on. But for now, we're going to hit a hard break. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking about high-profile hits, what's going on with the Lindsey Graham assassination, Donald Trump saying that people looking into it are just looking into conspiracy theories, this Lego clip that got put out regarding Lindsey, as well as some of the ominous statements from Benjamin Netanyahu. We're going to be talking about high-profile hits and more other terrestrial and temporal issues on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. This is Freedom Faction over here on Factions of Freedom, and we'll be right back right after this.
it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The good news is that as primates, we're incredibly adaptable, going to be tested to the limits. What they see going on is the breakdown of all tradition, all order. They're quite right that it's happening, but they're quite wrong to conclude that it should be resisted or is somehow evil. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse.
no such thing as its freedom. There is no such thing as democracy. Please stop listening to the mainstream media. Please stop listening to the Western world speaking about United Nations, human rights. This is evil. Nonsense. They have enslaved the human race under the banner of human rights. I beg you, they have enslaved the human being under the banner of human rights. There is no freedom in the world. The world is placed in the bosom of Satan, the killer of mankind. A snake, the poisonous cobra. Satan likes to do things in disguise, in quietness, in the depth. But the Lord forced him to surface up. He wants humanity to see. He's opening the eyes of those who are willing to listen to Christ. Those who are willing to listen to Christ, He is opening your eyes. What has been happening in recent years, it is absolute satanic. But all done in the name of human rights, democracy, United Nation.